Hi everyone, this is Janae Cherie. Welcome to my channel. 3 weeks ago today, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Let me tell you a little bit about my life and my backstory. So, cancer's run in our family for generations. My grandmother had breast cancer for the first time at 38, and then the second time at 50. My aunt discovered she had ovarian cancer when she had a routine hysterectomy in her 50s. My grandmother's cousin had breast cancer for the first time at 32, and we knew that that we had the BRCA1 cancer gene in our family. So 5 years ago, I got tested to see if I had it. Sure enough, I drew the short straw in the genetic lottery, and I have the BRCA1 cancer gene. So what happens when you have the BRCA1 cancer gene is they immediately start doing routine testing constantly to make sure that you don't have cancer. So every 3 months or every 6 months, depending on what we're looking for, I was in the hospital doing some tests. Twice a year we do breast exam. At 6 months we would do a mammogram. At the 12-month mark we would do a MRI. When you're young, in your 20s and 30s, your breast tissue is often really dense. So they have you do the MRI instead of the mammogram to be more likely to catch anything. And then on the rotating every 6 months, I would have to have an ultrasound to make sure that I did not have ovarian cancer. And then, of course, subsequent blood tests to go along with everything to make sure there was no cancer markers in my blood. So in January 2021 was my first cancer scare. We had been watching this cyst for 3 or 4 years go from small to medium to larger, and it just kept growing. Every single time we looked at it, it was growing. So on this January 2021 exam, the doctor apparently saw that the cyst had nodules growing on it as well, which apparently is very serious because I got a very urgent phone call from my doctor saying, there's nodules, we want to remove it, we think it could be cancer. And honestly, it wasn't that scary at first because they didn't know for sure. They didn't want to do a biopsy because the moment you go in and start puncturing things in your abdomen, you can potentially release cancer cells to the rest of your body. So they went in, and I'll tell you about the surgery at another time, but they went in, they removed the ovary, and there was no cancer. Great news. Excellent. I have one less ovary. Okay, but there's no cancer. Then we just kept on going. In October of the same year, 2021, we were doing my annual MRI, and they found a lump. The mammogram hadn't caught it 4 or 5 months before, but the MRI caught it. So they did a biopsy. I don't know if you've ever had a biopsy. That is the most painful freaking process on the planet. So much pain. I was blue and purple for a week and a half. It was so painful. And the results, biopsy, no cancer. Great, fabulous. So survived my next, went through my second cancer scare. Everything was fine. So the doctor called me and said, even though it's not cancer, we think we need to remove the lump. She explained that there's a 10 to 15% chance likelihood that it could turn into cancer later down the line. And why risk it? Why, we would have to be checking it every 3 months, making sure it's not spreading. Why increase that frequency of all these other tests and all this other BS, when we could just go in and remove it? And so I agreed, yeah, let's make it go away. So what's crazy is the day of the surgery, what they do is they do this scan with an ultrasound scan to try to figure out where they need to put the little metal markers so that the surgeon, when they do the surgery, they know, okay, it's from here, it's about this depth. They go and do all this thing. Well, while they have, while they have the scan on my chest, the doctor all of a sudden sees a shadow and she goes, there's another lump in there. Like, really? Well, that hadn't been there on the MRI 3 months before. So she says, I think we should remove it. We're going to be in there anyway. Let's make it go away. Hell yeah. After the biopsy last time, I don't ever want to do that again. That was miserable. Let's just make the lump go away without doing the biopsy or any of the other issues. Let's just remove the lump at the same time. And of course, that second lump is what turned out to be cancer. This is actually great news because if we hadn't found it that day, they would have found it on the MRI or the mammogram 3 or 6 or 9 months later, and it might have been a lot bigger. So it turned out to be a stage 1, grade 3 invasive ductal carcinoma. And I have to write that down because I can never, for some reason, that word, carcinoma, can never seem to say it if I'm not looking at the damn word. But anyways, so then I have a cancer diagnosis. Third time's a charm, I guess. And that's a really weird word. It's a scary word. It kind of stunned me. So getting a cancer diagnosis is weird. I had been sitting in my dentist chair. It had been a week from the surgery, and I'd been waiting for that routine email saying, hey, hope you're feeling well from the surgery. We did the analysis on the tissue. No cancer. Life is good. We're done. Because, of course, the biopsy said there was no cancer. So why am I expecting cancer? So when I looked at my phone and the doctor's office number was there, my heart just fell. I knew it's bad news. And what bad news do they have to tell me except that it's cancer? So I pick up the phone. I was still waiting for the dentist to come in. She was with another patient still. And my doctor says, is now a good time? So, well, I'm at the dentist. And she says, do you want me to call back? Nope. No, I do not want you to call back. What's the bad news? Oh, well, are you sure this is a good time? I can call back later. I said, nope, you guys only ever call if there's bad news. Please just tell me the bad news so I can get on with my day. And she said, well, that second lump we removed, sure enough, it was cancer. And yeah, it registered, but it almost didn't register at first. I felt this wave of just emotions hitting my face. And I'm like, I'm at the dentist. I need to not respond this way at the dentist. I need to not be emotional at the dentist. And I said, okay, what's the next steps? She says, we need to remove it. We can talk about options in our next appointment. I had a post-surgery appointment on Tuesday, and I said, okay, so we're going to meet on Tuesday. Yep, we're going to meet on Tuesday. Okay. And then we hung up. And then I'm sitting in my dentist chair. And I'm just like feeling this crazy wave of emotions. I mean, I'd had a couple cancer scares before, and I didn't realize it would feel so different being told, oh, you might have cancer versus you have cancer. I don't know what's wrong with me. Of course you feel different. But that word is just so scary. In our society, you start to look at the numbers and you realize that cancer is extremely common. Breast cancer is extremely common. Literally in this last year, 2 women I know have been diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer. And one of them is a survivor, and I'm sure the second one is going to be a survivor too. But you know what it is we don't talk about it very much. And because so many people do die of cancer, even though breast cancer is one of the most survivable, and many women get it, and most women survive it, it's still just this really horrible word that kind of just lingers. And so I'm sitting in my desk chair. I'm sitting in the dentist chair, and it's this really horrific word. So I'm sitting in the dentist chair, and my dentist finishes up with another patient, and she walks up, and I've known my dentist for 15 years. She's wonderful. She goes, hi, Janae, how's it going? I was like, I was just diagnosed with cancer. She goes, when? 5 minutes ago. She goes, what? And then, of course, I explained the whole thing I just explained to you. She goes, do you want to go home? And I'm like, I don't think so. I knew I needed my teeth to be cleaned. It's very important. I had missed my last appointment, and so I was like 3 months late for my cleaning. It's like, no, I think I'm okay. And she sits there for a minute, and all of a sudden I start crying. And my dentist, she's so sweet. She gave me a hug. She's like, don't worry, I'm vaccinated. She gave me a hug, and she's, calming me down and talking to me. And I wasn't sobbing or anything. I was tearing up, and I was clearly very emotional. I was still figuring out what way was up. I was like, But we talked for a minute, and she told me about a story about she had a major injury that they thought was going to she was going to have to retire from her job for the rest of her life because she wasn't able to move her hand. And there's major nerve damage and all these other things. And she's there. She's my dentist. She's doing her job. And she talks about this recovery and how everything's going to be okay. And, and I was, again, admittedly very emotional. But I was like, yeah, it's going to be okay. And I said, just like I said now, cancer is extremely survivable. We caught it early. This is the whole reason I go in and get checked and poked and prodded and scanned every 3 months, is so that we would catch it early, because we knew I had 80% chance of breast cancer and 60% chance of ovarian. We knew it. So why am I surprised? I should have just assumed, of course, with my shitty medical luck, just life luck, of course I should have just assumed that I was going to get cancer at some point. But it still took me a moment. And it took, I'm not going to lie, it took a minute to process. My brain immediately defaulted to the possibility that, of course, maybe they removed all the cancer when they removed that lump. Wishful thinking, of course. And I ended up seeing my family that night, and my grandmother, of course, asked me, how did the lumpectomy go? And I can't lie to Grandma, so I had to tell her, even though it was her birthday. I said, I didn't want to tell you on your birthday, Grandma. That was not how I was supposed to tell you this was happening. And she says, so it is cancer? I said, yeah, it's cancer. But I said, let's not talk about it. We'll talk about it later. Enjoy your birthday. Enjoy your dinner. And we'll talk about it after. And so that evening, after everyone was starting to get to leave, Grandma, of course, started asking me more questions. Tell me what the diagnosis, what did the doctor say? Keep in mind, I'd had a 3-minute conversation with my doctor. I was nowhere near understanding what was next steps, where to go from here, what the procedures were going to be. But I said, the doctor wants to do another surgery to remove all the rest of the cancer, if there's even any cancer left. And I told her that, my theory that maybe they got it all in the lump they removed. And I told her that. Very optimistic. Let's soothe Grandma's concerns, the family's concerns. And I said, yeah, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about. It was probably all removed in the lump. I told them that. I told my partner that. I told myself that. But of course, that was an incorrect assumption. I sat next to my doctor in this giant 10-page stack of papers, and she's talking about to my breast tissue and what it means and what the issues are and what type of mass it was. And she said, oh, no, there's 3 sides of the mass that we removed had cancer, meaning that the cancer was not contained inside the mass, like the little present I had hoped, but it was definitely inside, and I had cancer in the rest of my breast tissue. She also explained a variety of different things. What's the difference between stage of cancer and grade of cancer? And the easiest explanation I understood, and I should have Googled it, but I didn't, is that stage of cancer is the existing severity, and the grade of cancer is how fast the cells are reproducing. So I had stage cancer, which is the good one, but the grade of cancer, I have grade 3, which is the highest, which means it's the fastest reproducing cancer cells. And from there, and after a lot of gibberish and a lot of stuff that I wrote down and a lot of notes, she then goes on to talk about the options. There was 3 options to move forward. There's the lumpectomy, the single mastectomy, and the double mastectomy. But on that note, I think we're going to end the video here because the whole deciding what to do next is a whole separate thought process and a whole bunch of different emotions. But tell me what your experience was like finding out you had cancer. What did you feel? What were your hopes? What were your thoughts? Were you in a little bit of denial like I was? It's totally fine, totally natural. But I'm really interested to hear. And hopefully, if you are going through this right now, I wish you love and strength and that you'll get through this. And we'll get through this together. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining in. This is Janae Cherie, and I'm here to tell you my stories.